Direct to you from the Oneida Lake Riding Gun Club.
It's the new Oneida Lake Show. It's the new Oneida Lake Show. Cause the old one wasn't good enough. Cause the old one wasn't good enough.
Sponsored by
Anglers
Bay,
in
Bartow,
Road
Baitin'.
Tackle.
Evening, folks. Welcome to the new Oneida Lake Show. I got Rob from Bartow Road Bait and Tackle here. I'm Pete from Anglers Bay, and we're back again to talk some fishing on Oneida Lake. Rob, what's new?
Oh, let's see what's new. If you look at the long-term forecast, looks like February into March is going to be brutal cold. What does that mean for Oneida Lake? That means a lot of ice. Oh wait, we already have a lot of ice, don't we?
That's right. 12 to 14 inches right now. Thicker in some spots.
It's going to be 9 degrees in the morning. Basically, we're going to build ice from here on out. I think we're looking for one of the best Februaries into March bites where we're going to see. We're seeing the walleye bite stay steady on the east end. Perch are still kind of non-existent. Guys are starting to pick and choose here and there. I don't think really we figured them out yet. They may be where we just aren't looking in the right spot. I have a hunch you're going to start finding them on the mud flats, which is usually a little later. But I think right now we're going to start finding them in areas. Well, let's put it to you this way. The guys that are fishing for them where they think they should be aren't catching them the way they should be, which means they're not there. They're in somewhere different. So my advice to you for perch this weekend, think outside the box. Instead of maybe even fishing minnows over the deep water, go to a spike and a jig somewhere in the mud flats and see if they aren't possibly eating bugs already. And other good news on the west end, finally, we're starting to see some panfish, some really big panfish. Big Bay is beginning to fire, and I'm excited about that because that's what I love to do personally. So I think you're going to see me out there during the dark hours next week a little bit for the crappies. So that's kind of what's been going on.
We finally got some snow, so people are able to get sleds back out again. That's definitely good news.
Yeah, if you didn't have scratchers last weekend, you were in a lot of trouble. Or if you were liquid cooled, you were okay. Air cooled, yeah, I've heard some issues.
It's still pretty slick underneath the snow.
Oh, it's ice.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, we should get 3 to 5 inches, I think, on starting tomorrow, or is that into Sunday?
I think that's into Sunday, what I heard. It's starting to snow a little bit out there right now. On my way here, I noticed there's a few flakes in the air. We're about to see a massive drop in temperature. It's 43 degrees in Brewerton right now. You can already feel it dropping. Today was a gorgeous day. It again melted down what was on the ice. It's just going to add to it. If it's going to be 9 in the morning, we're adding ice. All I can say is this: if you're going to bring machines, bring them. This is the first time in a long time we've been able to do whatever we want on this lake. I believe the ice drags, is that this weekend or next weekend down at Sullivan Beach?
That's next weekend.
Next weekend?
I think.
Okay.
If it's not, we'll let you know.
Yeah, we'll figure that one out. They're gonna have snowmobile races on the ice at Sullivan Beach again this year. Last year was a big time success, and I think it will be again this year as well. We're seeing people travel everywhere. This lake is getting fished hard. Soda, Sandy, Chameau. This has just been the best ice fishing weekend or winter we've seen in a very long time. And everybody who's helping out the businesses around the lake, thank you. We needed it. The last 2 winters were really rough on us, and it's awful good to see you all out there participating again.
Rob, I wanted to ask you, as we get into February, some people have it in their head that there's a February slump on Oneida Lake. Fact or fiction, or a little bit of both?
I think it can be a little bit of both. It all really does depend on the weather. We just had a blue moon, a super moon. That is a big time. The effect of that on this is pretty intense. But the best part is, because it's already done with, we're going into February with a new moon. So moon phase is in our favor for February. I don't think people really pay attention enough to that. This was a super blue blood moon. Now, what does that mean? It was the second full moon in a single month. Okay, that's the blue moon. You've heard the term once in a blue moon. It doesn't happen very often, but it's when it's twice in 1 month.
Blue moon
exactly right. So that's pretty big time. The blood moon and the super moon together has not happened in 150 years. So if you experienced tough fishing this past weekend, and I know you did, do not lie, because I heard it from everybody. That's why. The moon's gravitational pull on the earth is in par with the barometer when it comes to how these fish feed. It was really tough. I've heard it from everybody. Every day in the shop I hear people complaining, and I tell them all the same thing. It's not just you. There was atmospheric conditions that really led to this. So that's kind of what happened there. But as far as your question, February, I think February is going to be awesome this year. I really do. I think the walleyes might temper off a little bit because it's been insane. The number of fish caught in the last month is absolutely astronomical. But I also think you're going to start seeing the perch and the panfish really pick up. I think that February is going to be the month for that.
What about burbot? People are starting to catch those too.
Burbots, as my buddy Jason would call them. Burbot. Burbot, they're they're a cold water fish, and there's a lot of them being caught. If you're fishing perch and walleye, the odds are you're going to catch a burbot. It's that simple. I've actually had the opportunity to eat one. Sean Kennedy cooked one up for us once, and I'm not going to lie, it kind of tastes like lobster. As long as you cook it properly, they're a delicacy. One thing I will tell you though, please don't just kill them and leave them on the ice. They're an awesome fish. They're natural to this lake. And they're a lot of fun to catch. I mean, you get a 5-pound burbot, it's a heck of a fight. So if you know how to clean them and eat them, have at it. If you don't, just put them back. Let somebody else catch them down the road. I'll tell you a great story real quick. I had a customer, a regular of mine. He fishes Lock 23 all year round. He come in the shop and he told me he caught a snakefish. I said, snake? Do you mean snakehead? He said, yes. I said, there are no snakeheads here, Alex. He said, no, the guy told me it was a snakehead. He killed it and said he was going to take it to the DEC. So I'm thinking it's a bowfin. My buddy's like, probably a burbot. So Alex pulls out his phone and shows me a picture. I said, that's a burbot. He goes, but he told me it was a snakehead. He was going to take it, he put it in his cooler after he killed it, took it to the DEC. I said, Alex, he stole your fish. He's going to eat that fish because you bought it. So yeah, there are no snakeheads in Oneida Lake, folks. Anybody tells you there are, they're lying to you. There are bowfin and there are burbot, and there's a big difference between those and a snakehead. Okay, so we're clear.
Okay, so you touched upon spikes for the perch. Yep. Walleye still jigging wraps with buckeyes?
Oh yeah, usually a buckeye head. Most people aren't using a full minnow on their jigging wrap, they're using just a head. Whether it's a large buckeye or whether it's a fat head, that's just how they're doing it. And they're fishing it on the treble hook below the jigging wrap. So yeah, it's definitely still that.
We had a member of the site ask if we could get into the jigging wraps a little bit. We're going to do that. Rob's going to do that for you in a minute.
We're going to talk about some walleye jigging lures right here. What I have in front of us is 3 different size Rapala jigging wraps. We have a moonshine lure, and we have a chubby darter. Yes, it's called a chubby darter. Okay, right now, the jigging wrap is by far the most sought after bait on this lake. There's no question about it. I can't even tell you how many I sold just between Friday and Sunday last week. Our distributors are running out of them. We're struggling for them. It's just kind of the way it is. They right now are the hot lure. Now, if you can notice it, this is a number 7. Some people will fish them here on Oneida. This is probably more of the size for chamois, but it's great for me to show you what we're talking about. As you can see, it's got a front hook, a back hook, and a treble hook. There are a lot of fishermen that will cut that front hook off. Why is that? Very simple answer. When you're fighting a fish to the hole, that hook tends to get hooked on the hole or on the ice. So a lot of guys just take the step of cutting that front hook off because really your minnow head's going to be on your treble. And then you have your back hook as a secondary hookup for the fish. I have a fast snap on mine. It's this one's a Berkeley snap. For me, it's just easier to get a little more action and to tie on. You can tie directly to the eye of the bait. That's a total personal preference thing. This bait can be worked in many different ways. Like I said earlier, it's really just a minnow head. That's the majority of people are going to use on them because the action is in the bait itself. This back wing is really what gives you your action. You can dead stick it, you can slow jig it, or what a lot of guys seem to be doing this year is a very aggressive, fast jigging action. You're basically trying to catch the attention of the fish. And because of the back wing on this jig, as you quit jigging, this thing is darting all over the place. So that's your attraction factor. They generally don't eat these soft. When you hook up on a jigging wrap, you're hooked up on a jigging wrap. And to be honest with you, there are a lot of times where when a fish comes in to look at it, you're going to get him just because he's around it and you're jigging it. These are your smaller sizes. That's a 3. the number 3, and that's the number 2. These are the three. These are the two sizes. I'm missing a number 5. I don't have a 5 in my arsenal because frankly I just don't fish them enough. But I have your smaller sizes, which a lot of your perch fishermen will use, and I have your bigger size, which there are a lot of walleye fishermen on this lake will use the number 7. A couple other options you have. This is a moonshine. Looks a lot like a jigging wrap, doesn't it? It doesn't have the front hook already on it. This thing also has the tail fin, and it also glides the same way. The difference between the jigging wrap and these, every moonshine glows. This is the most incredible glow you're going to see on any manufactured lure outside of a stank eye, which is a local. They glow better than almost anything, but this is intense. This is a glow jigging wrap, but if you put the two side by side, this one will stay charged a lot longer. The other type of jigging lure you're going to hear, you'll hear guys, and it's kind of like a secret. Guys talk about rattle traps. Well, we all know rattle traps are a bass bait you throw during the spring and summer. This is a chubby darter. Boy, it looks a lot like a rattle trap, doesn't it? Sure does. Same idea. Only instead of casting and retrieving, you're again vertically jigging. This one has rattles in it. So as you're jigging it, it's adding the extra sound. Where with a jigging wrap and the moonshine, you've got the visual attraction. Chubby darter or rattle trap gives you the sound advantage also. Especially when we got those floods and those heavy rains and the lake was getting stained and muddy, there's a little advantage for you. A lot of guys who are very good out here don't admit to it, but I'll tell you right now, they're fishing rattle traps and chubby darters because of that sound.
Okay, so that was pretty cool, Rob. Thanks. Yeah. Wanted to just real quick, we mentioned Big Bay earlier in the forecast there for this weekend. What's good strategy there? Really haven't heard a lot out of there yet this year. So
well, they're starting. I think what happened, to be honest with you, is January was Walleye Insanity 2018. A lot of our most diehard pan fishermen went walleye fishing because, quite frankly, it was easy. These guys went out, they filled their freezer, and now I'm starting to see those regulars come back going to the bay. The bay is starting to produce some big fish. We've seen some big sunfish, some big bluegills, and the crappies are kind of starting to stick to the deeper water. Again, the ice is super thick and the lake is still a little bit low, even though we got all that water. Therefore, the fish are moving to a little bit of the deeper pockets with a little bit of weeds. Stick with your spikes, your wax worms, whatever your preference is. I know a lot of big bay fishermen love the wax worms. Me, myself, I fish spikes, stank-eye jigs, caddy jigs, any of your dots. We've sold a lot of tungsten this week. So yeah, I do think you're going to see a late blooming big bay bite that's going to be absolutely spectacular. And now that Walleye Insanity is starting to wane just a bit, you're starting to see the guys come back, and the bay is going to be very, very much on fire, I think, in the next several weeks.
And you're stocked up pretty well down there for panfish.
I am ready for the pan fishermen. And one of the main reasons my shop is in Brewerton is Big Bay. When I opened, I knew that. I told my wife, we're close to Big Bay here. That is your absolute go-to in the winter. I mean, look, we've had 2 bad winters on the main lake, but Big Bay fished good. Everybody fished Big Bay. So I made sure that the pan fishermen are ready to go. We have a great selection of dots. We have a great selection of rockers and jigs. The Stank Eye boys released their new eyeball lure this week. It is absurd. I should have brought one with me, but I'm running out of them. Jeff, are you hearing me? Speaking of which, guys, we're going to have Jeff on from Fresh Run Lures here very soon. So come up with any questions you want to know from these guys. He's kind of a mad scientist. I can't guarantee what he's going to tell you as far as the truth, but I guarantee you he's going to give you some tidbits on how he decides on his patterns and on the jigs he paints. So look for that. That's going to be coming really soon.
Sounds pretty cool. Looking forward to another great weekend on Oneida Lake. Any comments, just hit our message board up. We'll try to address them in the show for you. Stay safe out there, people.
www.oneidalakefishingreport.com